Hi everyone, so I'm gonna try this video again. There's gonna be several noises going on in the background. I have my daughter over here sitting on the couch somewhat close to me, and I have my husband in the shower. So you're gonna be hearing some noises. I'm gonna try to do my best to get through with this without it being too distracting. So hopefully it's not gonna be too distracting. But I've been wanting to talk about this for a bit now. Just my views, my overall views on Puerto Ricans, on Nuyoricans. Puerto Ricans from New York. Trying to be as distinctive as I possibly can, okay? Because there are people on this platform who are very hell-bent on us making those distinctions. So, nice car.
Thanks.
Nice car.
You love my car?
Yes, I love the car. It's so sparkly. It's so great. Having a 4-year-old. So yeah, this is probably gonna happen a lot throughout the video. So I think that first and foremost, like, there's so many like directions and angles that I can take this, right? So there's the humorous route where I can just kind of go in on us as a group, some of the goofy things that we do as a group, the negative stereotypes that people like to talk about a lot, and I can go into all those things. Maybe I'll do that, but one of the things that has always had me a little bit conflicted with everything with this topic is because I know that when it comes to us and how we grew up and everything and how our experiences are, that a lot of these things are also systemic. So I try, on the one hand, I judge us as a group. I like to kind of show other Nuyoricans, anybody else who wants to listen, other Latin groups, kind of the reasonings as to why, or I try to shed light as to why the reasonings are that we behave a certain way, why things are the way that they are, why we don't really do that great as a group. So I try to shed light on those things. But on the other hand, again, with these things being systemic, I know that I also don't want to be too harsh either. Okay. And like I think of certain things. I think of certain things all the way back from my youth. And one of the things that I have spoken about on this channel before, and a lot of the things that we're kind of compared to as a group, as compared to like Black Americans, with certain negative stereotypes, one being the single motherhood stereotype, okay? And that is very prevalent with us, okay? I'm trying not to laugh because I hear my daughter and she's cracking me up, and I'm trying so hard to not laugh. Okay, so there is the single motherhood aspect, okay? And that is something that I did notice a lot growing up. I remember being one of the few Puerto Ricans in my neighborhood that knew that. I mean, we were already a rarity as it was, because we lived with my dad. For the most part, he had sole custody of us, so we were already rare in that regards. And then, on top of that, the fact that we even knew who our dad was, that was actually something that was very out of the norm. Everything with us was out of the norm, okay? So that's one thing that, like, I noticed, was how so many people didn't know who their father was, or if they did know who their father was, they really didn't have a relationship with their father. And it's like I wanted to talk about this, but at the same time, I don't like it to make it seem like I'm putting down the men from my group, because I'm not. Because there were women that I knew who would purposely go out of their way to have children at a young age with the wrong guys, okay? So yeah, this is something that I definitely put on both the women and the men. I don't like to put the sole blame on one or on the other. This is definitely something that I know it's systematic on the one hand, and then on the other hand, it's like, there were times, especially in my youth, when I would see that and I would get upset. Like I would get upset with the people from my group. Like, well, what are you doing? Why do you have to go out of your way to get pregnant at a young age? Like, why are you dealing with this guy? Meanwhile, this guy already has, one or two kids that he's not taking care of, and he's a young guy. Why are you dealing with this guy? And I remember thinking like that at a young age, and I was lucky enough to have, my family, my extended family. That didn't happen within my own family. So I was lucky in that regard. Like all of my aunts, my uncles, everybody for the most part, except for my parents, everybody for the most part, they stood married. My aunts and uncles are still married. They've been married for like 40, 50 plus years. Okay. So, because of that, I think I had a little bit more of, maybe I guess you would say a conservative for the time, I guess, more of a conservative way of viewing relationships and marriage and whatnot, even though I still don't consider myself to be that conservative, okay? I am and I'm not. I guess I'm saying in comparison to my peers at the time. I'll just try to put it in that regard, because I'm pretty certain that people will be, will come on here and be like, well, you're not conservative at all, especially the people in Latin America, and they're going to give me this whole trope about how not conservative I am. And so I'm trying to be as distinctive as I possibly can with my commentary, even though that gets super annoying sometimes, but I feel like I have to do it. So those things used to really like irk my nerves. And then, the other thing that I know that we get condemned for a lot, and especially at that time, in my time coming up, like the 90s and, even like the 80s, and of course like the early 2000s, where there was lots of gang stuff at the time. For my generation, it was the gangs that were popular, of course, were Bloods and Crips, but it was also Latin Kings and Nietas. Those were like the other, Latin gangs. And then you had like the Dominican gangs too. But I really don't know too much about those. I really don't know that much about gangs, period. Okay. But I just knew that there were, that those things were very prevalent in my neighborhood at the time. Kid that I knew who was kind of a nerd, or, you would consider like the nerdy type. And he, I guess in order to feel like he wanted to fit in, he started to behave and started to hang around with a certain gang at that time. And he started to get into really bad criminal activity. And then he brought it up to me, and I told him, I'm like, what are you doing? This is not you. This is, why are you doing this? Like, why are you going down this path, basically? And I'm here, I remember being like a 15-year-old kid giving another 15-year-old kid like a pep talk as to like what are you doing with yourself? This is not you. All right. So I did see a lot of that, not just with him, with other people. And on the one hand, now that I'm older, I see how easy it was for a lot of these kids. Mostly the guys got involved in this. Of course, the girls got involved in these things too, but not to the degree that the guys did. The girls, on the other hand, the negative things that they would get into was getting pregnant at a young age and stuff like that. Sometimes they'd get into certain, like drug habits, alcohol habits, and things like that. And of course, guys would too. But like, I remember just the other thing that people don't like to admit is how some of the mothers of these kids, of these males that would get involved in these things, that they would promote it. Okay. And what I mean by promoting it is that some of these, especially when like a lot of these kids, like these Puerto Rican guys, if they would get involved in like gang stuff, and let's say they came from a single parent household, I personally knew people who, when they went down that route, their mothers may not necessarily have been happy about it, but their mothers, some of their mothers, would actually be okay with it because it was a way for these guys to bring in extra income and a lot of income. And even though it was done illegally, they were so much in a position of like, oh, we're so
Up and down. I'm brushing my teeth up and down.
good girl. No, don't come over here.
I'm brushing my teeth up
That's
and down.
good. That's good.
That's
Good. Very good.
Can I brush some more?
Yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can brush some more. So, she's pretending she's brushing her teeth. She brushed her teeth at 8 o'clock this morning already. She's pretending to brush her teeth again. Anyhow, so I think that that's something that people don't like to highlight too much, because then that's gonna make the women of our group look bad, right? Because in a way you're promoting your sons to get involved in these things just for some extra money, instead of you going out there and working or getting a second job or making your son get a decent job where he may not be making as much money, but at least he'd be making an honest living, right? And that's something that nobody wants to talk about for some reason. Why? I don't know. But I knew people personally that I saw personally go down this path. And I remember feeling so disheartened about it. There was people that I had to like leave behind, like end friendships with for reasons like that, because you had their moms on the one hand like promoting it because they were bringing in extra money, and then me on the other hand like dude, what are you doing? Like you're gonna destroy your life. And the money is okay right now, but you're gonna end up getting caught at some point. And then what? Do I risk, staying around you as a friend? Do I keep up with this friendship, or for my own safety, do I get away from this? And I got away from people like this. Okay? But the thing is that I know that my situation is not, I know it's not abnormal, right? I know that lots of other women go through things like this too. And I think what a lot of us may not express to people too much is there is a level of guilt. Like I felt guilty ending these types of friendships and ending these, for that reason. Like I did feel guilty. Like I felt like, well, maybe if I stood around, maybe I would have been the positive influence. Maybe if I would have like stayed to, and tried to convince them, and if I would have tried, and there was that level of guilt, but at the same time, I knew that that's not how this works. You could only give pep talks, but so much. Sometimes these, in my case, it was guys, but there's women too, again, that go into, and get involved in these types of things, that they're going to do it anyway. Some people are just going to do it anyway. They find a solidarity with these, with these gangs, or not even necessarily gangs, just people that are kind of, that live like a criminal lifestyle, right? And they get addicted to that lifestyle. And that was something that I was not willing to risk, And there was even mistakes that I made in my youth, but it was never those like illegal type mistakes where I was, getting involved in criminal activity. And what I hope is that one day these types of, and it's like I say, like, I hope that these aren't a topic of conversation anymore, but on the other hand, these haven't been a topic of conversation. Not enough. Not from us as a group. It hasn't been a topic of conversation. And all that it's really been is more of like a kind of a wag of the finger, and kind of like telling us as a group, like, oh, you got to be better, and you're getting this from all sides, from people within your own country, and foreign Latinos that come here and they kind of snub their noses at us too. So we're kind of getting it on all sides, okay? And I think because there's so much shame with us, I think that we don't talk about us as a group like that. So maybe it's time that we just start having the conversations that we haven't been having. I think that's what we need to do. And I think that we need to ignore the outside interferences from these other groups that aren't us or that don't care to help us. Okay? Because I do believe that there are people from other groups that don't mind helping us, don't mind unifying with us and helping us become better. But I know that there are people, and there's a lot of people who are the ones who are most vocal tend to be the people who do not give a what about us, okay? And we need to kind of ignore those people. Is what we really need to do. And I think that we need to have these conversations more. And let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. Hope that you all are safe. And I'll see you all in my next video. I hope the outside noise wasn't too distracting. All right. Bye, guys.